What's up, YouTube? It's time for a review of the new Talib Kweli and Styles P EP, The 7. Wow, they're already bringing bars. Out last Friday, April 14th. So for me, checking out this collaborative EP was a fucking no-brainer because these are two MCs that I'm a huge fan of, Kweli in particular being one of my favorite lyricists of all time and probably my gateway into, I guess, conscious hip-hop with classic albums like Quality and Train of Thought, and of course the Black Star album with Mos Def. Although the term conscious hip-hop is fucking stupid and people really shouldn't use it, because to me I just think it's an unnecessary label and it just limits artists and draws this weird line in the sand where there doesn't need to be one. And Styles P too, who I haven't necessarily followed his solo career as closely, but the Lox album Money, Power, and Respect is like permanently seared into my DNA. Talib Kweli, though, is an MC who is very unique and has this distinct wordy flow to go along with his unmistakable, pointed socio-political commentary. But ironically, even though the guy has a style that's all his own, his career has been almost anchored by how collaborative he's been able to be. I mean, the guy has proven that he can have chemistry with anybody from Cool G Rap to Pharoah Monch to Kanye West to Kendrick to frickin' Nelly, of course most notably Mos Def. He's been so consistent throughout these many collaborations, and him and Styles just seem like a real interesting pairing for a full project, because they both have the same ethos in terms of being hardcore New York lyricists, but they approach it from two different musical angles. So what I was hoping for from this EP was kind of a fusion of their two approaches into something new, rather than feeling like two separate entities just volleying back and forth. And man, the best thing about this EP is the collaborative vibe of it. On one hand, you do get the juxtaposition of their two approaches on a more minimal track like Brown Guys, which is a song that's topical, it has no hook, and it contains just one verse apiece for them, so you can really sit there and contrast their two approaches. On Brown Guys, you can sort of pick out how flow-wise, although both their verses have a sort of syncopation to them, you can notice how Styles really waits on the beat more than Talib does. And of course, you can also pick out that Talib is a little more wordy and gets a lot more in edgewise, which really isn't a surprise because that's more of his signature. So you kind of see them both talking about the same topic, but using a different rhythmic impulse and just using a different amount of words to get to the same point. But in addition to this fun side-by-side look at two different takes on the same beat, this EP more often than not feels very collaborative. As opposed to sounding like the two of them just emailed verses back and forth, it sounds like more often than not they spent some quality time really working together on these songs. It really brings a smile to my face when they showcase this in little ways, whether it's Kweli ad-libbing during Styles P's verse on the song 9.5, or it's the two of them tag teaming that really catchy hook on Last Ones, or it's when Styles P just sends out a challenge to MCs to meet us on the 7 tour, making this feel like sort of a real lyricist alliance type deal. And there's chemistry not just between them two, but between all the guests that appear on this thing. On 9.5, we get all three Lox MCs, and the way Sheek Louch's verse just rolls into Jada's is fucking awesome. Though my favorite guest appearance that's not Talib or Styles has to be Rhapsody on Let It Burn. She just steals the show on this track with this spazzy, occasionally arrhythmic flow that just matches perfectly with the sporadic instrumental underneath her. So the chemistry is definitely there. In terms of the lyrical content, what's awesome is that Talib and Styles do hit on some pretty intense subject matter here, but they're able to keep the overall vibe of the EP positive and almost lighthearted by not only bookending the track list with two of the more brag-oriented tracks, but by peppering these songs with just these fun references. On the song Teleprompters, Talib says these half-assed rappers are cheating like Ashley Madison, referring to the side chick dating website. You have a DJ Khaled and a Nene reference on the song Last Ones. And on Teleprompters, Talib says that he's most dope, like Mac Miller, which was a really unexpected reference. One Styles P line that made me chuckle was on the opener Poets and Gangsters. He says he's rolling down his lane like a bowling ball. It just kind of goofy. It just keeps that fun cypher spirit alive. But when the socio-political content hits, it hits hard and it hits powerfully, like you'd want on any Talib project. Two of these main songs being In the Field and Brown Guys, both of which address racial issues. Brown Guys addresses white privilege, especially as it relates to white people just getting away with more in the eyes of the law, despite behaving the same as the mass amounts of black people who are getting locked up. Styles P conceptualizes the N-word as a mind state that applies to people of any color. They're both just really fucking angry and fired up on this track, and I love it. And I think the most memorable line for me was when Talib says they think they know the hood because they seen The Wire. As for In the Field, it explores the fascinating concept of the house Negro and uses some Malcolm X sound bites to make its point. If you've seen Django Unchained, Samuel L. Jackson's character is basically the embodiment of this term. It's really cool how Talib and Styles basically take this historical term and put it into 2017 context. To Talib and Styles, for an African American in 2017, being in the field as opposed to being a house Negro involves continuing to actively fight for black rights and black issues rather than just accept the status quo and suffer peacefully, which is a very interesting phrase that's used here that really just had me thinking. Lyrically, they call out the hypocrisy of fast food chains and police, and Talib addresses some contemporary religious issues in his verse as well. One thing that I learned in this song that I didn't know was this whole thing about the 13th Amendment, which of course abolished slavery. Apparently there's a clause in there or whatever that says that if you commit a crime, you're essentially susceptible to slavery. Jesus Christ, that makes a lot of sense now. This fiery, in-your-face commentary, to me, is key to this album because a 7-song cypher wouldn't have had the same impact, I think. This way we get both some content and the fun tracks like I mentioned. As for the production, it's outstanding. The beats here are quite varied, and I love every one for different reasons. The dissonant piano chords on In the Field make me feel like I'm listening to mid-90s gangster rap, particularly Cuban Links era Raekwon. I love Marco Polo's instrumental on 9.5. It sounds like something that Lupe Fiasco would have flowed over on Food and Liquor. It's got this smooth, melodic bass line, some lush cinematic embellishments, and a zoned out, contemplative vibe, but also a worn, emotionally weary one. My favorite beat on the EP is definitely Let It Burn, though. It's fucking awesome with this restless, constantly moving groove, but also this tuneful piano line that kind of keeps it grounded, as well as these 2 electric guitar chords that chime in at the beginning of the loop. Yeah, I'm loving this EP. It's just a great listen straight through. I guess my least favorite track is Teleprompters, mostly just because I thought Common's guest verse was a bit underwhelming, and the hook was a bit uninspired too on this song. But seriously, this is one of my favorite hip-hop projects of the entire year. It's just got everything I look for from 2 MCs I love nonetheless. The beats are fire, the lyrical miracles are there, as is some thought-provoking content. At the end of Last Ones, I found myself kind of disappointed that this wasn't stretched into a full album. Though maybe I'm wrong and the cracks would show over 15-16 tracks. But either way, this definitely left me wanting more from these two. I can't recommend this enough if you're a Talib fan, a Styles P or Lox fan, or just a fan of hard-hitting lyricism like I am. It's pretty apparent that we're never going to get anything more from Black Star, so this'll do. These two are a winning combination on here, and I really hope there's more where this came from. The 7 gets an 8 out of 10 from me. As always, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, or shoot me a message so we can continue to talk music. And I'll see you guys soon.